Yo, what is up everyone? Today we will be doing What If Ichigo was Shinji's son, part 3. Now, at the time of recording this, it is now December 29, 4:06 a.m. This will kind of be like the birthday special, per se. I cannot fall asleep for some reason, so I was watching Xehther's What If Deku Had a Stand. I was vibing to it. I was feeling the energy. It was resonating with me. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make a video. I'm actually gonna make two. I wanna, feel it. The will of X that Rogue always talks about. I'm starting to feel it a little bit. It's really interesting to say the least. But without further ado, guys, everything I say from here will be off the top of my head. I did not think about this whatsoever, and if I start stuttering, it's simply because I have nothing to say. But I'm gonna try my best to make it sound like I actually know what I'm talking about. Obviously, I know what I'm talking about, but I'm talking about the story-wise. But without further ado, guys, sit back, relax, and enjoy. So we resume this what if after Ichigo and his friends, obviously with Shinji, ran into the Senkaimon portal. Now, they pretty much ran over to the other side, obviously with Ichigo and Shinji helping the others by carrying them and then flash stepping to the other side, so they didn't have too much trouble with the cleaner. Obviously, they had realized the cleaner was coming after them, or at least was behind them, so they had just simply went faster. So they would then make it to the other side, and obviously Ichigo, being the more logical one, would offer or at least suggest that they would then head over to a safe house. Yoruichi would offer, saying that, hey, I know someone who could possibly give us shelter and possibly a way into the Serite. Ichigo, Yoruichi, and Shinji and the rest of Ichigo's friends would head towards Kokaku Shiba's house. They would have that same encounter with Ganju, but this time Ichigo's not as hot-headed, as he would be a little more calm-like, but he would still whoop Ganju's ass, as Ganju would then ride off on his hog to basically say he'll be back at dawn with the boys. Obviously, he's basically saying he's gonna jump Ichigo. Basically, Ichigo's like, I don't give a fuck, but basically, he just doesn't care. He and the rest of his friends head towards the Kokaku's house. Once they would get there, Ichigo would debrief Kokaku on the mission, and pretty much what would occur is Kokaku would start to train them on how to control the Ryatsu so they can survive, per se, in the Soul Society. As they would start to learn how to, or at least Ichigo's friends would start to learn how to control the Reishin to a ball-like form, so whenever they're going through the cannon, they'll be able to actually, survive and not be atomized at the atomic level or the molecular level. So Ichigo's friends, they will not be too hard. Urio's already okay at controlling Reishi since he uses that to form his arrows, or he may kind of the similar boat, and same with Chad. But Chad would have a similar problem since obviously he's more hollow-like. It would be hard for hollows to pull Reishi if it's not like in Wake Up Mundo or the world of the living. So after the training, which would take like 2 days, Ichigo and his friends, they would be ready, obviously along with his father and Yoruichi. They would then head inside the cannon, as Ichigo would have the drip on. It would have the Kayori outfit with his shahakusho under it, with the tie on, the bucket hat, and the trench coat. Alright, actually scratch that. So this time we're gonna have Ichigo have like a suit. Alright, think of it like a suit like Shinji. He's gonna have the shahakusho over that with the trench coat. I know that's gonna be Ichigo's gonna feel hot, but it's the drip. Alright, why not? Then Ichigo's gonna have the hat on with the tie on. He's ready to go. So pretty much Ichigo would get inside, as Yoruichi would be looking from afar. she'd be looking at the differences between similarities and a lot of similarities and small differences between Ichigo and Shinji's outfit. Obviously, Shinji would have the usual outfit: brown trench coat, black, button shirt, white tie, and his sword on his shoulder. And as he would see, look over his son being similar in some way, as they would have the same, kind of a cocky smile, as Kukaku would announce that she was now launching the cannon, and now they were being launched into Soul Society, or specifically the Seireitei. They would then be launched in, and suddenly their cannon would be submerged in fire, as they were now entering the atmosphere of the Seireitei. Suddenly, Ichigo would be told by his friends to control his Ryatsu, since it was really masked, but it wasn't as bad as it was in canon. Ichigo would just lower his Ryatsu quite easily, as Ryu, Chad, and Orihime could keep up, as they would land with kind of relative ease, to be honest. So if you're wondering, what are the teams? Like, who's gonna go with Ichigo? Who's gonna go with, what are the teams gonna be? So what I'm gonna have it as is I'm gonna have Shinji go with Uryu. And this is big brain, think about it. If when Shinji encounters Mayuri, he's gonna encounter Shinji. Shinji and Mayuri will have the whole, hey, I know you. And then they fight, and then Shinji's like, well, mollywops him. They'll keep going. Shinji, actually, I'm not even gonna try to spoil this. I'm gonna let you guys have a good experience. So, like I said, Uryu, Orihime, and Shinji will be going as a team. Then it'll be Ichigo, Yoruichi, Ganju. And that's it. If you're wondering, where's Chad going? Let's say Chad's going with... it's like nearby Shinji's group, but he's mostly going by himself. They got split up, so he had to unfortunately go by himself. So Ichigo, Ganju, and Yoruichi would land, as they would look over. There was two individuals running towards them. Ichigo would then look towards Yoruichi, telling her to get in the trench coat pot, which was kind of big, but it was pretty okay size when it came to that of a cat's, as Yoruichi would simply get in, as Ichigo would unsheath his sword, as he would then pretty much throw the sheath in the air, as it would dissipate into reishi, as he can control his Zanpakuto to manifest it wherever he wish, including the sheath. Or, obviously he doesn't have a sash, but soon, of course. Ichigo would then run towards Ikkaku, who would quickly unsheath his blade using his sheath as a weapon. As, obviously Ichigo would kind of be at a disadvantage when it comes to weapon-wise, but Ichigo's really good at swordsmanship, at least far experienced than Ikkaku. Obviously, oh my god, why am I pausing there? Ichigo would start clashing with Ikkaku, kind of doing relatively well on his own. He is captain's class, while unfortunately Ikkaku is lieutenant, high lieutenant, possibly low captain with his Bankai. And that's with it charged up with the Hozukimaru fully awakened. So they would start clashing, as Ichigo would tell Ikkaku to go into Shikai. Ikkaku would then ask him, who's your teacher? As Ichigo would respond, well, I have a lot of teachers. My father, who taught me from a young age, being Shinji Haraku. Then my uncle, who was Kisuke Urahara. My aunt, Yoruichi Shihoen. Then my other siblings, in a sense, being, Rose, Love, Hachi, Hiyori, Lisa, and none other than Mashiro and Kensei. As obviously pretty much Ikkaku would hear all of the captains and lieutenants who went missing on the same night, or on the same day 110 years ago. As Ikkaku would then say, well, you're going to be quite a strong one. What if you defeat me? I'll give you your warning. As he would then put the sheath and the sword together, as you then, activate his Shikai. I kind of forgot the phrase for Shikai. I think it's It's I know it's Hozukimaru. It's awaken Hozukimaru. I'm not even going to try to remember. But Ichigo would then see an explosion of Ryatsu coming from Ikaku's direction, as Ikaku would then have his staff with this. It's not really staff, it's more like a staff and spear. As Ichigo would then say, "So, what are you gonna do with a spear? Spears, they take a long time to attack, right?" As Ikaku would then say, "Who said I had a spear?" As he would then split his staff and sort of spear into 3 parts, as he would then attack Ichigo. He would then attack him from the right, as Ichigo would deflect, as the other part of the blade would go to attack, this cutting his cheek, as Ichigo would barely dodge back. As Ikaku would then say, "Too bad it didn't cut you." As Ichigo would lift his head up, as the top part of his eye was cut, as obviously there was blood running down his head. If any of you get the reference, then comment down below and I'll pin it. But this has happened to his father too in the fake Harakura town, so if you know, you know. After he got cut, Ichigo would then say, "No, you definitely nicked me. Good job," I'd say. "You tricked me into thinking it was a spear." I'd like that. As Ichigo would then activate his Shikai. Obviously, his sword would be kind of relatively the same, but suddenly Shinji would start seeing Shinji. Oh my god, I'm tripping today. Ikaku would start seeing things, as suddenly his vision, he was seeing things. He saw Ichigo multiply. Obviously, this is Ichigo using his speed and his illusions to basically get above his opponents. As suddenly, then we'd go over him pretty much being sent into the inverse world. Ikaku would start seeing inverse directions, as when Ichigo appeared in front of him and slashed at him, it had been slashed through the back. Suddenly, Ichigo would then raise his fingers behind him, as Ikaku would turn around, as Ichigo would then say, "Bakudo number 61, Rikujo Kuru," as 6 bars of light would then slam from in front of him. As Ikaku realized his ability, it had literally inversed his directions. Anytime he had pretty much looked backwards, he would be in front of him. It was it really fucked his senses up. But after this would happen, Ikaku would unfortunately be defeated, as Ichigo would start to ask him for information. Ikaku would then say, "Why do you want this information?" As he would answer, "I want to save a friend of mine. Her name's Rukia Kuchiki. The reason why she was in prison is because she was, I guess, related to me in a sense when it came to friendship." As Ichigo would then be told by Ikaku, saying, "Why do you want to save trash like her?" As Ichigo would then answer, saying, "It's because she's my friend, and I never want to abandon friends. I know it sounds corny and all, but she truly did have an impact on me." As Ikaku would then sigh, as he then point towards the 13 court guard offices, as he would then say, "Those are the 13 court guard offices. Once you get there, go all the way to the end, and you should see a huge white tower. This is called the Repentance Tower. Once you get up there, she should be in there. But I'm gonna let you know, my captain's gonna be hunting you down. His name's Kenpachi Zaraki. He's from the 11th Division, just like where I am, because he's my captain. Just be aware of him. He's a monster." As Ichigo would then say, "Thanks for the tip. Maybe after this we could possibly get a drink." As Ikaku would nod his head, as he then pass out. Ichigo would then use his rest of the Shikai's not lotion, but like medical lotion, I guess, to seal his wounds, and then he would then walk away, as he would head towards the 13 court guard offices. We would start running, as suddenly he'd be at the entrance, since he was he was really relieved. And now we're gonna do a flashback. In this flashback, Ichigo's just finished a fight, as now he'd meet up with Ganju, and Yoroichi would jump out from his pocket, going back on his shoulder, feeling kind of stretching, because his pocket is not really too big, but it's just barely enough for her to get in. So she had to start stretching. As then they would keep going. Suddenly they'd run into a Shinigami, this being Hanataro. They thought maybe they could hold Hanataro hostage to get their points, or I guess what they want, but they quickly realize that the 11th Division do not really like the 4th Division. So they would take Hanatoro with him, as Hanatoro would hear them talking about Rukia, as he'd offer to be a medic and their guide. As they would head towards the Repentance Tower, they'd be by the entrance of the Gote 13 court guard offices, as they then bump into none other than Renji Abarai. Ichigo would then say, "Oh, look who it is, if it isn't Renji." As Renji would then say, "Glad you remembered my name, but you do know that now I'm now 5 times stronger than I was in the human world." As Ichigo would say, "Cool, I'm 50 times stronger. What's there to brag about?" As Renji would then suddenly kind of become confused, but then he would regain his confidence, saying, 50 times, how's that even possible? As Ichigo would then swipe on his mask, as he would then go into Shikai, activating the 25 times multiplier. Ichigo would then say, in a deep, kind of mutated voice, he would then say, "This is how." As he would then say, "Awaken, Genku Mitutashi," as his sword would kind of gain that same circular shape on the Tsuba, as it would gain holes throughout the whole blade, similar to that of Shinji's, as Renji would then be placed in the illusion. As Ichigo would then appear in front of him, Renji would then say, I know I can actually, basically he's yelling how he can repel that attack with ease, as he would go to clash the attack, but once he did that, Ichigo would just turn into mist. Obviously, if you don't know, when Shinji releases Shikai, it releases a mist, so I feel like this is more fitting. So Ichigo would start messing with, Renji's mind, as every time he would even manipulate with Renji's vision, seeing Rukia basically yelling at him, saying how he's not saving her and following the rules of the Soul Society, the same people who created the Rakangai district and put all the people like them there. And now look at you, upholding their laws. As Renji would slowly but surely become mad in rage, as he would then, activate a Shikai, as Ichigo would then suddenly appear in front of him before just punching him in the face, knocking him out right then and there. Obviously, him being in Hollow Mask, he would have more power to the punch, so it's not going to be too much of a stretch if he gets hit by that punch and just suddenly gets knocked out. So after the fight, Ichigo would then, would tell Hanatoro to heal Renji, as then they would head over to inside the 13 Court Guard offices. They would start running through, slashing through every Shinigami that got in their way, as suddenly Ichigo would start to hear bells in the distance that were ringing. It was almost beautiful, but there was a daunting tint of madness in it. Suddenly, someone would appear behind them, as they would feel almost a presence behind them, holding them by the shoulder. And once they turned around, they had seen a wild man, almost like an animal on a rampage. And now the animal was looking at its prey, being Ichigo, Ganju, Hanatoro, and now Yoichi. Ichigo would then unsheath his sword, as he would then say, "Oh, look what we have here. This is what Ikaku was talking about. You're Kenpachi?" As Kenpachi would then say, "Yes, I am. I'm very excited to fight you." As Kenpachi would then say, "It's against the rules to wear a Hayuri. It's very severe punishment for you to wear that." As Ichigo would then say, "Well, I did earn it from the former captain." As obviously, now due to Ichigo wearing the Hayori, Aizen now had a plan. Aizen planned for Ichigo to basically kill him and then frame him for the death of, Aizen, or him death of himself. So him wearing the Hayori would show some kind of dominance over, because if you kill a captain with 200 viewers, you become the next captain. Obviously, this was just a way of taunting, I guess you can say. So basically, Aizen would frame himself, not frame Ichigo, and then have it look like in his Kyoku Suigetsu that Ichigo killed him. And now in the fight, Ichigo now realizes what this is about. So Kenpachi would then say, so you killed Aizen, you severely injured Ikkaku, Renji, Jibando, and even went toe-to-toe with Gin. You're really strong. As Kenpachi would start laughing slowly but surely, it would transform into that of a maniac laugh as he would rip off his eye patch, seeing Ichigo's strength. Ichigo would suddenly gain a little bit of fear, but it would be overencompassed as a pair of arms would wrap around him. This being his Zanpakuto, as he'd realized he needs to go into his Bankai. As he would say, Bankai, Gengai Toshiro. As suddenly there'd be thousands of clones of himself, being obviously illusions, but Kenpachi would then say, you think these tricks will stop me from cutting you down? As Ichigo then respond, they're not supposed to cut you down, they're supposed to hold you down. As all these clones would start to turn into, their hands would start to actually form real hands, with Ichigo splitting his soul into them, as then they would all form chains of like golden Ryatsu, as then they would grab them, kind of holding Kenpachi down, as Ichigo would then walk up to Kenpachi, as he would then slice his sword down. Suddenly the sword would break. Ichigo just didn't have enough Ryatsu, as suddenly Kenpachi would get up, as he would then say, I'm tired of all these parlor tricks, they're really irritating. As he would then appear in front of Ichigo, as he would slash down, as Ichigo would go to try to deflect the blade with his broken Suba at that point, but it would go right through, as Ichigo would be left with nothing but his pure beautiful Suba, now left with the blade departing from its Suba. Suba almost cried in agony from the loss of its other half. Ichigo would then fall over with blood spurting from his chest, as he would then look over to Kenpachi, as he would then say, is this it? Did I train this hard just to lose to some captain? As he would then suddenly time would stop. Ichigo would then say, I want to win. I want to cut him down. I want to end him. As obviously his Zanpakuto would form, as she would then ask Ichigo if he really wants to win, or if he just wants to live. As also Old Man Zangetsu would make himself known, as he would ask the same thing. He would then say, do you want to win, or do you just want to live? Are you just content with living now, or do you want to end his life right now? You can see the relationship with his Zanpakuto is very poor. You wouldn't want that Zanpakuto to suffer any longer, right? Just due to the neglection of its wielder. Ichigo would nod his head, and not nod, but shake his head in a no way, like in a no type fashion. As Ichigo would then be pretty much, obviously Zanpakuto and Old Man Zangetsu would walk up to him, tapping him in the heart, with Zangetsu releasing his power over the Quincy powers, as suddenly his arms would be covered in blood fiend, as then his Zanpakuto would give him powers to the hollow side, as a horned mask would appear on his face, as then he would transform into his Vasta Lorde form, as there'd be a small mark on his chest forming the mark that Ichigo got in the Hell movie. So pretty much after, he would get up, he would be in his Vasta Lorde form, as Ichigo would then appear in front of Kenpachi, as Kenpachi would quickly turn around, clashing with Ichigo, thus being an explosion of yellow and dark yellow, almost orange Ryatsu. As they would start clashing, Ichigo would then realize this monster needs to be put down, as now he realizes he needs to kill Kenpachi. As Ichigo would then say, I never use this Kido, and not even Hachi nor Hara, even Hachi nor Hara have trouble with it. As Ichigo would then make some silent incantations, as he would then say, Old Man Zangetsu, Gangu Mutatashi, I hope you are with me, with all of your Ryatsu. You are me, and I am you. Hopefully we can now coexist and work together to make this Kido technique. As Ichigo would then say, Hado no Kyuju, Goryo Tenmetsu. As the ground would start to rumble as 5 yellow dragons would form from the ground, going at Kenpachi. Now we switch perspectives to Yamamoto, who is simply, drinking his tea and seeing how the events of the Ryoka invading would unfold, until suddenly he recognizes the familiar presence of Hado number 99. He then looks over to his right through his window as he then sees 5 yellow dragons, the same familiar presence to that of Shinji Harako, but not at the same time. Something Ryatsu presence he only felt from Byakuya, even though when he was a kid he looked at Byakuya and he felt similar presence to Ginrei because they're related. This is something he felt from Shinji. As he would question himself, did Shinji have a kid or some shit? He didn't say or some shit, but he would say, did he have conceive a child? As he sees the fight unfold, as he sees, obviously, now switch back to Ichigo. He then stands over Kenpachi's riddled and dead body as he then grabs his sword, and then before, raising it in the sky, before then absorbing its Ryatsu via his hollow abilities and his Quincy abilities. Suddenly, the girl that was watching the fight, being Yachiro, would disappear, as now instead of being Yachiro, she would become Nozarashi. Not that Ichigo would actually use the Shikai or anything, it's just a Ryatsu boost. After the fight, Ichigo would fall over as Yoruichi would go into her true form or human form, pick up Ichigo, as now they would head over. Obviously, Ganju, and Hanataro would head over to the Repentance Tower, giving pretty much Ichigo telling them to leave and Yoruichi just staying with. So, like I said, Ichigo would then be taken by Yoruichi to the hot springs. As now, this will be the end of this part of What If Ichigo Was Shinji's Son. The next part should be the last part, but maybe not, but I'm not really sure. Without further ado, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this What If. But without further ado, guys, have a good day and peace.